Hello and welcome back. And I have a video I've been meaning to do for a little while now. And it's going to be episode 1 in a new series that I'm calling Backcountry Safety. In this series, we're going to break down everything from first aid preparedness, GPS satellite communicators, as well as tips and tricks that you can do for free without having to purchase an independent product like this. As well as we're going to look in depth at clothing and layering systems and maybe challenge some of the social norms and preconceptions. But in this episode, we're going to look at this, and it's discussing, or rather rethinking, your first aid kit. I know typically first aid kits, especially those that you buy as like a complete all-in-one straight from the manufacturer, tend to be very focused on wound management. But I'd like to sort of cover that, as well as maybe get you thinking about what really could constitute as a first aid item, both thinking in terms of injury, extrication, and yourself and potentially others. So here in front of me is my first aid kit that I take when I'm day hiking or multi-day backpacking. It is in a 1 liter Sea to Summit sack, and its weight is 325 grams. So as mentioned, this is a Sea to Summit lightweight dry sack 1 liter. I'm yet to actually test them out, but I think the 1 liter is when it's in its unrolled configuration like this. Once you roll it down, and it advises rolling the top 3 times in order to sort of guarantee the waterproof quality of it. This is much smaller to me than 1 liter, but I could be wrong. All right, so let's jump into it. Starting right here at the front, this is the first item that comes out of the first aid kit. This is an individually packaged pair of gloves. This is really important if you're treating somebody else on the trail side. It can help protect you from any blood-borne diseases and pathogens, and just maintains good body substance isolation. So gloves right on the top. These are available, actually I think I got these in a tick removal kit, which is another item that I sometimes circulate in and out depending on my location and the time of year. Right behind that is a bag of medications and contact lenses. I've just sort of broken it down here. I wear contacts, and there are 101 different situations that might cause you to either lose a contact if you get splashed in the face with water, or blown out in a strong wind. Maybe it becomes damaged, or foreign body gets in there and you happen to rub your contact out and it falls out. So spare pair of contacts, especially if you have a strong prescription like me, can really make or break your day. In here, we also have some vitamin I, or ibuprofen 400s. These are the extra strength. It's a gel cap, so it's fast acting. These are good if you have a sprain or a strain, because they have both anti-inflammatory properties as well as pain management. Next to that would be a medication like Imodium. If you happen to be in the backcountry despite your best efforts to purify your water, maybe you end up, something gets through your filter system, and diarrhea in the backcountry would be uncomfortable at best. And if you are out of water, and maybe you drank that water in an emergency situation, or it's a hot day and you're going through it a lot quicker because you're going to lose water through any sort of diarrhea, having a medication to treat that is quite important and really valuable. Next to that, I have some sore throat lozenges, just the old Fisherman's Friend original. I've done a couple of winter hikes, even summer hikes, where you have a sore throat and it'd be nice to have something. This weighs almost absolutely nothing, and it's easy to pop in a first aid kit. So just a couple of sore throat lozenges. There's 2 more medications here in packages, a medication here in liquid, and a syringe, and I'm going to talk about these items in a future video, so I would love it if you came back and checked this out. This is a really special video that I've been considering about doing for quite some time. I just wanted to make sure I covered all my bases about it, so keep an eye out on that in the future. Next to this, we have a pair of tweezers. If you've ever been out on a hike and sustained any sort of splinter, you never, consider it till you need it kind of thing. And a cheap dollar store disposable pair of tweezers is more than appropriate to help alleviate that, especially if you don't have kind of any other means. I mean, maybe you could try to use the edge of a knife blade. This would be even good for if you get stung. So any sort of wasp or stinger, Up here in Canada, we don't really have that many, cactuses, but if you're hiking in that area and you need to pull out a barb or something like that, but if you get stung by a bee or a wasp, that would be great too as well, more than just, your standard splinters. Behind that, let's start from left to right. So most first aid kits tend to focus on wound management. And as I mentioned, the whole purpose of this video is to try to expand, one's definition of a first aid kit, maybe emergency kit. But let's cover some of the wound management. And starting here, this is BZK or benzalkonium chloride wipes. It's like an alcohol towelette. It is a towelette on the inside, but unlike alcohol, it's not going to sting or burn. Benzalkonium chloride is antiviral, antibacterial, and it does have a detergent quality to help sort of clean out and around, and it should not burn in the areas. That burning sensation, I believe, is actually cell death that's occurring because of the dehydrating nature of the alcohol wipes. I might be a bit wrong about that, so comment in the down below if I am, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. The alcohol towelettes, again, multi-purpose, are also really good with this item. This is your classic gas station Kleenex, little resealable kind of thing on the back, 99 cents, super cheap, puffy, weighs next to nothing. Why do I have Kleenex? In case you need to go number two. If nature calls, when in nature, it's nice to have some material to deal with that, and then clean your hands afterwards to maintain backcountry cleanliness. So if you're going to eat food afterwards, having good clean hands is obviously quite important. With regards though to wound management, so if you've cleaned the wound, whether it's an abrasion or laceration, cleaning it, it in its area, then you may need to seal it back up. This is Steri strips. It's a 3M product. This is a wound closure strip. They come in different sizes and lengths, but their purpose is that if you sustain a laceration, so vertical cut, or vertical, just a straight line cut, could be even jagged. Point being, if you need to, say, approximate those edges back together to close that wound, if it sort of naturally pulled apart, you can do that with a Steri strip. Think about this as a non-permanent suture, or a stitch, you might know that as. So you can close that wound to try to, again, reduce the risk of infection in the wound itself. So Steri strips, great idea, especially if if there's slip or a fall and you cut your shin. If it's smaller, maybe it's a tiny laceration, a little paper cut kind of thing. We have, 2 assorted sizes of Band-Aids, depending on your needs. But if it's a bigger wound that you're closing with this, then you may need to use something like this. This is a sterile gauze. This is a 3x3. It's basically as light as the paper sachet that it comes in. It's a sterile product, so you would sort of clean out the area, close that laceration, put the bandage over top of it, and then you're going to want to protect it from the elements. And that's where this item comes in. Now, I'm going to talk about this again with some of these items here in a future video, but in terms of wound care and management, this is a hydrophobic self-adherent bandage. Sometimes it's called Coban, sometimes it's called, I think, Cling. In the equine world, this is actually known as vet wrap. And it comes in a plethora of different sizes and colors. You can spend a whole lot of money if you go to your pharmacies on this. Up here in Canada, it's about $7 at Walmart. I think I paid $3 at the UFA, the United Farmers Alliance. This is great because what it can do is it can go directly over top of your sterile dressings. And then you can, wrap it and protect it from, rain, snow, mud, dirt, whatever. This is also really nice, again, dual purpose if you sustain a sprain or a strain. So if you roll your ankle and you need some additional support to maybe, self-extricate, something like this you can wrap to secure, say above and below the affected joint and provide a little bit of additional structure to that. It's in an emergency situation, you could even use it to sort of, bind an unconscious person's arms together to help bring them out of an area, or their legs, if that's the case. Multi-use for this particular item. So this is polysporin. This is a triple action antibiotic with a lidocaine in it. Lidocaine is going to be for topical analgesia or localized pain management. I have found from personal experience this to be great in burns because it acts as sort of a lubricant. Of course, the treatment for burning is always stop the burning process, so cool water. But I find that this has helped with regards to sort of rehydrating the skin, as well as preventing infection over top of any burn, and helping numb any sort of pain localized. It's also great for wound management. So you would apply, say, some polysporin antibiotic over, before you dress it with a bandage or, with sterile gauze, and especially if it's, if you've closed a wound, then you can keep, this over top to help, sort of prevent that from festering. We also have some medical tape. Medical tape, it's all purpose. If, say, you fall and you sustain a fracture or a dislocated finger, often the treatment in hospital anyways is to bind the finger to the adjacent finger that's not damaged to sort of, self-splint in that regard. Segueing into the expanded definition here of a first aid kit and talk about this. This is a space blanket. These work based on re-radiating the radiant heat back at a person. So if you say, sustain an injury that would prevent you from getting out in the evening and there's going to be a temperature drop at night, this can help keep you warm if maybe you don't have appropriate backup insulation layers. This is also good in terms of keeping the elements off you. So if it starts to rain or snow or sleet, again, maybe you're out for a summer hike and the weather has a significant change that was not anticipated. Maybe you just fall into cold water, glacier water or a mountain water. Maybe you need some extra, way to heat yourself, and this is really important. This is also great in terms of helping assist another person. So if somebody else that you're assisting maybe sustained a back, spinal, or pelvic injury that would otherwise prevent you from manipulating them or moving them into a warmer, drier environment, this blanket can be used to sort of wrap over top of them to re-radiate their heat back at them, as well as, again, protect them from the elements. And this is especially important because those people who may have suffered severe injury could develop into a shock state where, shock being characteristically defined as poor perfusion. So, if you're poorly perfusing, then you're not adequately, you run the risk of not adequately warming yourself or maintaining heat. So space blanket would be great for that individual as well. Oh, garment tipping over. A way to generate heat in the backcountry. I know the Bic Mini is sort of the gold standard when it comes to backpacking and lightweight lighters, and I actually have one sitting on the counter over there. I opted for this. This is an O-Light. I was actually really pleasantly surprised to find it because I originally purchased a Bic Mini and swapped it out for this. This is refillable, and it is a porch-style light. Which is going to provide much better wind resistance than, say, a Bic Mini that could be theoretically blown out in a strong breeze. So it has a nice rubberized coating on it, and it comes in a plethora of different colors. I've chosen red because I tend to associate red items with first aid items. So red lighter, really important, both from a ability to dry yourself off, provide you with heat to sustain you through a cold night, as well as the psychological benefit associated with having light around you, and to create smoke for better visibility and identifiability if a rescuer is, say, coming in an aircraft. And I have heard that open fires tend to ward off a lot of cat species that might otherwise be curious and investigating you. So having a lighter in your first aid kit, I think, is really important. On that psychological benefit is a headlamp. I can think of two specific examples where I have gone on hikes and it's taken me longer than I thought to get out, and I have ended up getting to my truck after the sun has set, but still, albeit with a little bit of residual light in the sky. having a headlamp in your first aid kit, I think is a really smart idea. Once more, for the psychological benefit, if you do get stuck out overnight, you can, at least familiarize and navigate, in your localized environment, or you can use it, to directly extricate yourself and you don't get stuck. Or worse, if you are extricating yourself, you can, you don't sustain an injury on the way out. So good visibility, I think, is of benefit there. There is an update coming though for this headlamp, and so I will make a future video on that as well, and the reasons for why I'm making that change. I can't remember if I mentioned this. This is Leuco tape. This is a fabric bandage or dressing, whichever you want to call it. It goes directly onto your skin. It is porous and breathable and can be sort of trimmed down to specific size. So this is really popular in the backpacking and hiking community for blister prevention and management, because you can adhere it straight over top of the blister. It will not trap additional moisture next to skin, which would otherwise degrade the skin itself. This will help it breathe and dry out. But it will also provide a high degree of abrasion resistance. And so blister formation would be as if there's a mechanical friction. So say your foot against the sock inside of your shoe. If there's heat, hot summer's day, or if you're wearing a Gore-Tex waterproof shoe that's inherently less breathable. And moisture. So if it's a hot day and you're sweating, that is the sort of recipe for blister formation. So this is Leuco tape, and I have just cut down a square that can be used for blister prevention and management. So that just about does it in terms of my first aid kit. My goal with this video, as mentioned, is to try to expand your definition of a first aid kit. So maybe some of these items will or won't appeal to you, and there's certain needs that you might have in your localized area. If there's anything that you think that I might benefit from, please let me know. This is always a work in progress. Admittingly, this is probably a much larger roll of tape than I need, but I happen to have it lying around, and so I threw it in. If not, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next one. You take care. Bye for now.